In today's video, I interview my friend Lan Ho from Fat Miilk about how she quit her career being a pharmacist and started her own Vietnamese coffee business. Make sure you check out this video. Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Kevin. I'm actually a YouTuber, a former pharmacist, and entrepreneur as well. And on this channel, we explore the people, the processes, the tools to help us live a more productive, kick-ass life as well. Often on this channel, we talk about things like productivity, entrepreneurship, and personal development as well. But speaking about kick-ass life, we're going to talk about how to transition from a six-figure pharmacist job to starting your own business as well in the coffee industry. Now, chances are you're probably either a pharmacist or a pharmacy student thinking about leaving pharmacy. Maybe you've seen the BLS statistics about like, hey, there aren't enough jobs for a pharmacist. Or maybe you've been thinking about transitioning for a while. Maybe you've been working in the field for a while and you're just like, man, this isn't for me. I want to do something more with my life. Maybe the fact is that you don't hate pharmacy, but you're 100% sure that you don't want to be there forever. Maybe you're thinking about, hey, I would actually love a business that I can really enjoy and bring fulfillment into my life. And perhaps maybe you're in a stage of your life where you don't know where to start, or you want to do something more than just pharmacy as well. If you feel this way, no worries. I got my friend Lan Ho. So if you feel this way, no worries. I got my friend Lan Ho. She's actually the founder of Fat Miilk, and that's Fat Miilk with two I's, by the way. She started her own Vietnamese company as well, and it's growing like crazy. In this interview, we talked about how she got featured in a top magazine and all that, and her vision as well. Some of the things that really stick out to me during this interview was her story of always having this bigger vision and wanting to empower women as well. And I thought that was really, really interesting because honestly, sometimes I lack a huge vision. So just even talking to Lan actually really helped me out as well. And I know it'll help you guys out. So if you feel like you're continuously stuck in pharmacy or feel unfulfilled, or you're trapped in a job that you just really don't enjoy, Lan's story is actually really helpful because she talks about her experience from building Fat Miilk from ground up as well. If you're interested in more interviews like this, make sure to subscribe to this channel and make sure to support Lan's business as well, Fat Miilk. Her stuff is really great. And hell, maybe I'll do a taste test one day too. And maybe I'll even do a taste test of her products as well. Also, timestamps are below if you want to skip to a certain section, but I encourage you to listen to a whole interview as well. That's pretty much it. I will talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye.
Yes.
Yo, yes, we're starting off. Well, first of all, Lan, it's so great to just have you. It's kind of cool because we just literally met not too long ago, but glad that Carrie could introduce us, and now we're shooting a podcast, right?
Yes. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for including me in this conversation. And shout out to Carrie. He is a super networker, connector, and I'm super excited that he introduced us.
Yeah, it was really cool because he gave me your background. You're starting up Fat Miilk right now, which is your Vietnamese coffee company. And also, we have a very similar background. You're in pharmacy before as well, and it's kind of cool just seeing like a fellow pharmacist dive into this new field of business as well. So I thought that was cool. I thought we should interview you and get kind of the origin stories of all that as well. All right?
Yes.
So, for those that don't know who you are, I love just like a high level origin story over you. Like, tell us about Fat Miilk from a high level. We'll dive into it a little bit more, but yeah, we'll start off with that. Tell us about Fat Miilk.
Oh, we're going straight to Fat Miilk. Okay, awesome. Fat Miilk is a Vietnamese coffee brand that I launched with a really good friend about 2.5 months ago. We source everything directly from Vietnam, the local farmers there. Happens to be my partner's uncle, his family's farm in the Central Highlands. And then we essentially import the beans, have a partnership with a Vietnamese coffee roaster who can really bring out the true, authentic coffee Robusta flavor of those beans. And then we do everything else in Chicago where we're based. So
yeah, Chi-Town, love it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's cool. How long has Fat Miilk been up and running for now?
We launched September 20 3rd. So not even 3 months yet. It's been a little bit close. It's about to be 3 months next week. So
Yeah, pretty exciting stuff, and I can't wait to get into the origin story of how you actually launched this, because I took a look at your site before and all that. It looks really legit, branding
yeah,
on point. Like, I love it. So can't wait to.
thank you.
Yeah. So we're as you know, we're both Asian, right? And so I'm kind of curious about your upbringing as well. Like, what was it like growing up as Lon as well? Did you have any expectations to do pharmacy or anything like that? Just love to hear the origin stories of yourself.
Yeah. I think I have one of those origin stories where it's really, really typical. When I hear, and I think a lot of other, first generation Asian Americans can relate to my experience with my upbringing and my family. I had, both of my parents are immigrants, extremely, extremely hardworking. And, I think I'm not going to deny those cultural and, expectations and those family expectations that were definitely there to influence a lot of my decisions. Yeah. So in terms of, if we're going back to pharmacy, I would definitely say that was a huge part of that was due to the influence of my upbringing and my environment.
Yeah. And like growing up, I mean, were they kind of supportive of your entrepreneurial journey? Did you start any businesses when you were younger or anything like that? Love to hear that.
They were just such hardworking parents. And I think a lot of people know exactly what I mean when you come to this country and you have opportunity and, you're out grinding. And, I was very involved in middle school and high school. And I can't necessarily say that they were there to attend all of like my school events or my, sporting games or anything like that. Yeah. But I think they've always embedded into me to always be successful, right? Like they've always made sure that was a priority in everything that I, do. I think the success was maybe over the happiness and the passion part of it. But I think their intentions and, I think all really, those type of parents, their intentions are always solid and it's always comes from a good place. So I wouldn't necessarily say that they were supportive in the sense of me going out there and being successful and doing what I wanted to do entrepreneurially, but definitely pushed me to be successful in my other decisions.
Yeah. And in terms of the entrepreneurial bug, like when did it first hit you? Was it like when you're younger, when you're older? Love to hear that.
I definitely don't have one of those stories where it's just like, I grew up being an entrepreneur and sold newspapers and all that stuff. I was just very like by the books and I did what would make my parents happy, and I think doing that for so long, it just doing that in general, I realized that, man, it takes a lot of work to make other people happy. You know what I mean? And so, so I think the entrepreneurial bug was just always something that was there, but maybe needed to be activated after years of doing things that I didn't enjoy and doing things and putting in the work and the time and the effort of doing things that really didn't provide me that quality of life that I wanted. Yeah,
gotcha. So, I mean, I'm kind of curious, obviously you mentioned earlier your parents had a kind of like influence you to go into something like pharmacy as well. What kind of things did they say to you growing up, or did they say anything memorable to you that really influenced you, or were they more authoritative, like you need to do pharmacy, like straight up? How was that like?
It wasn't like a direct thing. I mean, obviously you have like those pressures to kind of do, you hear it in the ear. It's like a, here's what I would like, type of thing, and just kind of going from there. But it wasn't like you have to do this or there's dead, or you're dead to me. You know, it was just kind of like, this is what I kind of want you guys all to do.
Yeah.
These are my, you know, this would be great, and here's why. It was like, just like those subtle pressures that kind of build up on top of each other.
Yeah.
And it ultimately ended up being like, okay, you know, let's just do it. I don't know, see what happens.
You know, it's really funny. I actually went through something very similar. My parents never like forced me into pharmacy or forced me into healthcare, but I feel like for myself, like they kind of always hinted that, or being in the Asian community, like it's always kind of hinted you have to do something like that's respectable, that's something more as well. And so that's pretty much how I ended up to pharmacy. So I kind of relate to what you were talking about, like seeding that thought as well. So cool.
Yes. And that's, I mean, honestly, I always tell people, if you have those kind of parents and you're not very clear as to exactly what you want to do in life, I feel like sometimes it's easy for you to be influenced by that, you know? Like, I feel like if I grew up and was like, I want to do a coffee company, this is what I want to do, this is how I'm going to execute it, and that was just going to be, and I had plans and I had goals and I had step-by-steps, then I probably would have pursued that. But when, you know, I was going through school and I was just like, I don't know, I'm young, I don't really know what I want to do, you know, you kind of easily form into that person that your parents want you to be, you know. So
it's so funny that you say that though, because like my first impression of you, like, so when I first met you, it was so crazy. It was like, dude, we have this well to put together girl, right? And she seems like she knows what she wants. Like when you're talking about vision, dude, after a conversation I was like, fuck, dude, I have no idea what my freaking vision is, right? After talking to this girl. So like, I mean, when did you start kind of like really building that vision? Because it seems like everything is so well put together, at least from the outside looking in, right?
Oh, I think I will say this. I think when you talk about origin, I always say, oh, I don't know. But I will say I knew what kind of woman I wanted to be, right? I knew what kind of person I wanted to be. I knew what kind of influence I wanted to have. And so that was something that was always solid in my heart, and who I, you know, it made up my DNA as an individual. And so in terms of vision, I think having those bricks and that foundation of the person that I wanted to be, and being a role model for, you know, young women, and just women in general, you know, that's a huge passion for me. And when I see, you know, badass women out there who are just doing anything and everything that makes them happy, and they're, you know, breaking down barriers and shining through that struggle, that I'm so inspired by that, you know. So I think my entrepreneurial endeavors is a not necessarily a front, but the face of the person that I always want, you know, who I want to be and what I want to achieve in life. So and kind of curious about that vision of the woman that you want to be. Is there anyone that you really look up to that kind of embodies that at the moment for yourself? My goodness, so many. You know, there's a lot of, I would say, especially because I've just been looking into so many political things, but there are some political women out there who, which I will not name, but just, there's so many on both sides of the spectrum, right? Who I just am so inspired by. People who really stand up to, you know, people with, you know, in power, and like just being so authentic and unapologetically themselves, and fighting for the big picture and communities and stuff like that. Like, I'm inspired by that kind of influence, you know. But more than anything, I think growing up, I see a lot of women that I don't want to be like. Ooh, you know, so I see like I think for me, I'm like, I definitely don't want to be that kind of woman. And it's not, you know, discrediting them. Obviously everyone has their own path, but I just knew kind of what I wanted and what I didn't want.
Yeah, and kind of curious, what was the other spectrum? Because you did kind of paint the picture of like the woman that you want to be, people that you look up to. What's that other side
Yeah.
like for you?
I think just independence, right? Like being able to call the shots in your life, being able to kind of have that not only financial independence, but just having the quality of life where you call the shots and you're flexible and you're free, you know? And I think I don't want to discredit certain other women who are happily doing what they want to do in their lives, and that's what makes them happy. But for me, I've seen people want to make certain decisions in their lives, but they're not able to because they didn't have the financial freedom to do that, or like they didn't have the structure. They were so submissive and dependent on other people that, you know, you see them kind of succumbing to their environment as to fighting for what they really
actually
would rather be.
Yeah. It's kind of like society they get forced into this place where they don't want to be, and rather than, hey, having a plan, like really building the life that you really want as well. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, so that I guess that's a pretty high level, like, as well. You know, it sounds like growing up you kind of knew the person that you want to be, but it wasn't, you weren't quite sure about how you want to go about it. Does that sound about right? Okay, cool.
That's exactly it. Yes.
Yeah, awesome. And so, like, I know that pharmacy is really big in Vietnamese culture and stuff like that, but I mean, would your parents be pissed at you if you went any other healthcare career, like PA or anything like that as well?
It's so funny that you say that, because I remember when I was in college, I was like, all right, I'm going to go to med school. First of all, when you're in college, I think I wanted to be everything. And it's nothing super exciting. It's not like it was like, oh, I want to be a shoemaker or whatever. It was literally like I was like juggling between lawyer or a doctor, or I don't know. I have no idea. But I remember I was just like, Dad, I think I want to go to med school and be like a radiologist. I just thought, thought it was a good gig, and he was like, why? Like, go to pharmacy school, like pharmacy all day, So I think pharmacy was always the top of the hierarchy. Yeah. But I don't necessarily think they would be upset if I did anything else, as long as it's, in that medical field. So.
Dude, imagine a day like, dude, I'm so disappointed. You went to law school. What the hell? You're a disgrace to the family. That's
so funny. I think they would be. Yeah. I think they would be. Yeah. Okay, with that one. With that one is okay. But,
yeah. And so, like, I love to kind of hear, like, okay, so that kind of paints a picture of like why pharmacy, your family kind of planted the seed as well. Yeah. And I'd love to kind of hear, like, what was your pharmacy school experience like? Because I know that you did quite a few things before. Apparently you went to, you told me before you went to like Harvard for grad school and stuff. Like, what was your pharmacy school journey like from beginning to end in college?
Yeah, I think after college, I just really didn't know what I wanted to do, but at that point, I would say that's when my entrepreneurial spirit really sparked, right? And I felt like, okay, let me do something let me get some knowledge in finance or business or something that's really going to help me, be successful as a business owner. And that was kind of the direction that I went. So after going there, I ended up just going to pharmacy school because I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. And, that voice was still in my head. But I think for so long, if you continue doing higher education, it's almost a lifestyle. You know what I mean? And I think some people are like, oh my gosh, I don't know how you end up going to school for so long. But for some people who literally, if you talk to them who have their PhDs or they go on and do like fellowships and all these things, it's just like a lifestyle for them where, education in general is kind of their thing. Their thing, and it's their lifestyle, and that's how they engage. And for me, it just made sense to keep going, and I didn't really have a plan, like I said. So I ended up going to pharmacy school, and the whole entire time, I will admit, I absolutely despised it. I mean, I'm just being honest. I don't think there was like one moment in there where I was like, okay, this is for me, you know, which is kind of sad to say. But I think during that experience, I just went through the motions because I'm one of those people who you have to finish what you start type of thing. I don't necessarily know if that's the best way to say it, but to go about things, I mean. But yeah, I ended up going, and I think I wanted to drop out my first semester of pharmacy school. And I remember calling my dad and was just like, I think, I'm like, you know, ugly crying, obviously, because I'm scared as crap. And I was just like, I think I'm going to quit. Like, I don't want to do this. And then, you know, all this stuff. Yeah. And he was just like, just finish it, blah, blah, you know, you're almost there. I'm like, almost, this is my first semester. But, you know, for people who don't know, your last year of pharmacy school is like clinicals. So like, at least at my school. And so I really looked at it as like a 3-year program, you know?
Yeah. You went to a 3-year program, is that right?
Well, I mean, I treated it as a 3-year program because it's like, you know, it's 4 years, but your last year, I know some people like split up their rotations throughout while, you know, their academic years, but we have all rotations in our last year. So I like mentally, I tell myself, it's like working for free. You know,
dude, that is so hard. But it's so funny, as you're telling your story, I felt exactly the same way. Like, like I think around the first month, I was like, dude, do I really want to do this? Well, I'm in here. I got to finish what I started, right?
Yeah.
And believe this, Lynn, like, dude, my last year of pharmacy, like, it was like half a semester left, right? It was during like rotations. I was like, I don't think I really want to do pharmacy. I was having like a midlife crisis and trying to figure out what the hell I wanted to do. So it's kind of funny that you mentioned that as well, like that you went through that moment where you kind of despise pharmacy school experience.
Yeah.
Was it like the academia type of thing for you, or what exactly about pharmacy school didn't you like, I guess?
I think it was, just the content, right? Like, I felt like I could be using my time, not knowing what I could be doing, to be completely honest. It's not like I had this plan on how I was going to like have, you know, spend my days, but I just felt like it wasn't activating the qualities and the skill set that I wanted to hone in on it. You know what I mean? Like, I was there literally like slaving away in the library, like learning about pharmacology, like all these things that like I just knew after I graduated. I didn't think I was going to actually be a traditional pharmacist where I would utilize this information. And so I think it was just, it's not that I'm like discrediting higher education. Like if I was going to school now that I think about it for like coffee, like a doctorate's in coffee, I would be like, dang, this is tight. You know what I mean? But I think like, it was just something that didn't really interest me, to be completely honest, you know? And I didn't think I was going to go into like a clinical, the clinical realm of pharmacy. So.
Man, I relate with you so much on that, because I really feel you on the part where you said you're not using the skills that you really want to use. I mean, for me, like pharmacy school is a lot of, hey, remember this, regurgitate it later. And I was like, this is stupid. This is like the biggest waste of time, because what's the point of memorizing this stuff if I'm not going to use it, right? And that's how I always felt. So that's really interesting. I guess like as you're coming near the end of pharmacy school, like what kind of, you mentioned that you didn't really want to do clinical and stuff like that, and you didn't really want to become a traditional pharmacist, as you put it. What kind of career options were you thinking at that time? I'm pretty sure that you weren't thinking about Fat Miilk at the time, right?
I always knew I was going to do so I pursued, obviously I finished, right? So I finished, I was gonna do it. I made up my mind, I was gonna finish pharmacy school, and this was just going to be a done deal, like stop fighting it, land, you know, like, and so I think throughout the entire process, I knew if I was gonna finish it, I was going to do something entrepreneurial. And so throughout my entire pharmacy career, like as a student, you know, I made up like a position in NCPA. For people who don't know, it's like an organization for like community pharmacists, but it's heavily based on like entrepreneurship. So a lot of those people have their own independent pharmacies and et cetera. And so I remember in our chapter, you know, I just created like a chair, like executive entrepreneurial officer, whatever, you know, and they like kind of ran with it. And so for me, it was like introducing students to starting your own businesses, you know. And so I brought in did a lot of workshops, brought in a lot of like different entrepreneurs in different industries, and really try to introduce the student body to a different way of looking at pharmacy. So to answer your question, didn't really see myself being a traditional pharmacist, but I was determined to utilize my knowledge and my degree to some form of business, and whatever that is. I'm excited. Yeah. So
during that time, did you meet anyone pretty cool or memorable, like any of your guests, like a particular one?
Yeah, if there's anything I would take away from pharmacy that I can absolutely say was 100% worth it, would definitely have to be my professor, Dr. Cho. She is actually my business partner now, and my other venture that is pharmacy related, but and we can dive into that. I don't know how much time we have, but she is someone who was a mentor to me while I was in pharmacy school, and you know, I would just talk her ear off about like what I could even do with pharmacy. How can I make this like, and I, you know, into something exciting and creative, and you know, she was big on pharmaceutics, so it was like all about the compounding aspect of pharmacy. And so that was something that we both kind of had a mutual passion for. And so long story short, I ended up, you know, graduating, working, whatever, and then started a business and asked her to be a part of it. So I would say that's one person.
That's so crazy. Like that whole journey. Like I feel like that's really important, because I mean, when you're feeling that type of way, like how you're in pharmacy earlier, I had my professor too, man. Dude, he like, you want to go out for a drink? And I'm like, I don't really drink, but we would have these talks, and I'd just be like, dude, I don't know what I want to do. Like, I'm in a midlife crisis. I can't, I want to make pharmacy fun or something like that. But it's real. And it's so funny. I actually grabbed lunch with him like probably earlier this year before the whole COVID thing, but that's really great. And so, why don't you tell us a little bit about the current business venture you have with, so you just said her name was Dr. Cho. Is that right?
Oh yeah. Dr. Cho. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll just go into it really briefly, but I wanted to do something that was essentially a consumer good, right? Like that's something that I'm really interested in, is consumer products, creating that a consumer brand, and focusing on brand strategy. And that was something that I've always, I think, low-key, always enjoyed. And so, you know, how do we create something that is pharmacy related and still being sustainable and all that great stuff? Yeah. And so, I had this product that I wanted to formulate and compound, and I was working on it, getting it to scale. And there's just a lot of issues in that space where you're creating, you know, essentially inventing a formulation and trying to get it to scale. And I don't want to talk too much about it because we're actually in the process of potentially launching it pretty soon. But let's just say it's a sustainability product that meshes in with the personal care, toiletry, and beauty industry.
Yeah.
And it's pharmacy related too. So
TBA, gotcha, to be announced.
Yes, maybe we'll do another talk on that one.
Well, I think it's really cool. I think the main point is like, it sounds like, hey, relationships were a huge part of your pharmacy school, very bearable for you and all that. But obviously, like all things, pharmacy school comes to end, right? And you had to jump into pharmacy. So tell me about like what your next steps after pharmacy school were.
So after pharmacy school, obviously you got to take your boards.
That's true, right?
Yeah. Well, when I was studying for my boards, obviously you're job hunting. And during my rotations, I had a rotation with the DM at Walgreens. And I thought I was going to absolutely hate this rotation. I thought I was, just based on what people say and my, just, you know what I mean? Like when people talk. And so I ended up loving that rotation with the DM. And I think it was more so him as an individual as opposed to the actual rotation itself. But I think we just had a really great relationship, and I ended up working for him out. So that's essentially what I did. I became a traditional pharmacist for years.
You're lagging so bad, but yes, you mentioned a little bit. But I think we caught most of it. You're saying that you ended up being a traditional pharmacist. That's the last thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. And so you ended up working for Walgreens and whatnot. And how was it, like your first year or your first while you're practicing? What was that like? Was there anything that you kind of learned being a pharmacist, I guess?
Yeah. You know what? I always tell new grads, if Walgreens or CVS or Walmart or whatever offers you a job, take it, honestly. Because even though you might not want to do that first of all, you're a new grad, so you should take whatever you can get. In my opinion.
BLS with the BLS results, yeah, absolutely take a job that you can get one.
Take a job. My thing is to take a job. Obviously, I knew I wasn't going to stay there forever, but for me, it was the skills that I really wanted to learn. And so I think overall, I will say that working for a major chain, you will learn so much, and I'm utilizing those skills today, right now. And I think the biggest one is to multitask, right?
Yeah.
Like multitask and to like hold down the fort. When there's fires going on in every direction of the pharmacies, to like be able to hold down the fort and to multitask. Those two things is definitely 100% like the things that I learned and hopefully mastered. I think I mastered while I was at Walgreens. So.
That's awesome. And are there any like kind of skills that you learned in corporate pharmacy that you kind of apply to your business? One of the things that you mentioned was, hey, multitasking, but were there any other skills that you kind of picked up at Walgreens?
I think just good customer service, being able to deal with people, and I think that's huge, right? In any business that you create or are part of, I think being able to deal with the different types of people that you run into and, keeping your cool is something that you will learn in corporate. Yeah.
It's so funny because as you mentioned that too, I don't think I really appreciated it at the time because I was kind of, I don't know, I just wasn't in the mindset to, but now that I've stepped away from all that, it's like I learned so many soft skills in pharmacy, how to communicate better, how to deliver really bad news to people when they're pissed off, and how to de-escalate situations.
Yeah.
And also like with business, I mean, dude, we're basically cold calling too, like as well, like with I don't know if you had to do it at Walgreens, but at CVS we had to as well. So it's kind of interesting hearing your perspective on that as well. Cool.
I think you become really good at giving political answers. I will say that.
The corporate
You know what
answers?
I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
gotcha. And I guess like for yourself, right? As you're practicing pharmacy, how did Fat Milk like come up as well for yourself?
Yeah, you know what? It was God's timing.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've always wanted to start a Vietnamese coffee business because I've always been a fan. First and foremost, I'm a huge fan of coffee, and I think anyone who's ever been in higher education is a huge fan of coffee,
Yeah.
or anything really. Depend on it, but that was something that I just always thought was missing from the coffee scene. Was Vietnamese coffee, and anytime that anyone actually tries it, they're like, holy crap, like this is so good. The strong robusta bean with the condensed milk, and I just always wanted to do that. But I think I think starting Fat Miilk in while I was doing pharmacy was at the peak of COVID. I live in Chicago. I work in the city of Chicago, and during that time, COVID, in addition to the civil unrest that the city was going through, there was just like a company-wide furlough. And so I had already started these, planting these little pebbles
Yeah.
to start my own company and start Vietnamese coffee, and doing that while I was while I was working. But once COVID hit and I actually ended up getting furloughed, that's when my productivity for Fat Miilk and progress like skyrocketed.
Yeah.
So.
And I want to go back to something circle back to something you said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You said pebbles, right? You essentially planting the seeds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what were some of those seeds that you planted while you were working at Walgreens at the time?
I think the first pebble would probably just be an interest to do it, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that always stuck with me. I have so many ideas. Like if you talk to any of my friends, I mean, they probably get so annoyed with like all these ideas that I have. And like, I will literally just talk their ear off about like, oh, what about this and this? Oh, I want to do this and blah, 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 blah. And I think one thing that always stuck was that this country needs Vietnamese coffee and I want to do it. And that has always stuck. So I think that's pebble has always been there. I think two was just really setting down the groundwork. I incorporated the company, even though we launched 2 months ago, I incorporated it early of last year. And then I started working on the legal and administrative things for it. And then really just waiting for the time to go all in on it operatively. So.
Yeah, it's so funny that you're saying that you had so many ideas, because I was reading I was just kind of reading the articles of people that were interviewing stuff. I read that somewhere that you wanted to open up your own pharmacy. I'm pretty sure you had tons of other ideas and stuff too. So I guess at the time, like what other business models were you considering at the time?
I actually, while I was in pharmacy school, I started a blog, and that was fun for a while. I really enjoy creative writing. So if you see on Fat Miilk and all of our copy, that's me just kind of writing away. And I think with my blog, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it, but it was very hard for me to like talk about myself. You know what I mean? So I was just like, cut. And so another thing that I started after I graduated was a female driven clothing brand. And that's, if you've seen my Instagram, it's called This. Like She Is This, and this stands for the company that I started. I still want to pick that back up. But it was more so like, professional wear and like just formal wear for people like me, like a young professional. And, at the time it was really like Forever 21 or H&M. And I just wanted to like kind of source these really cool looks and create something like that. But then that took a back seat, and then just like so many little things that I ended up like just trying. And you always have to try, right? So
Yeah.
see if you really like it. You'll lose money, but you always have to try, and something will stick.
That's so
So
funny. But
coffee is sticking right now.
I know, but it's kind of cool to see all these adjacent. The reason why I asked this too is like I get to see all these adjacent skill sets. Like, hey, copywriting. You're talking about
Yeah.
the blog and stuff, and it's kind of cool seeing how all these small things kind of added up to Fat Milk where it is today. So
Yeah.
and so like as you mentioned, you always saw a need for Vietnamese coffee, and you had all these other ideas. I guess. How did you go about like at what point? Were you like, hey, Fat Milk is it? This is the one I want to focus on. I like these other business models, but I need to double down on this. At what point did you kind of come to that conclusion?
Let me see. With that one, I will say people. When you meet the right people who can help you, who have the same vision as you and help you actually make measurable steps into making this a real thing, I think that's when you can really conceptualize this being it, I think so for people who don't know, when I started Fat Miilk, it was just me. I was like a one-woman show. I was starting it. I probably had no idea I definitely didn't know what I was doing. And I was about to sign a pop-up space for like a year, like a 1-year lease. And now in hindsight, looking back, that was like the worst decision I could have made. And I think, like I said, it's God's timing. I was introduced to my partner now, who literally was on the verge of starting his own Vietnamese coffee company. And we were at certain stages of our lives where it just worked out so perfectly. And I think once he came into the picture, we really started to hold each other accountable, to actually making things happen, and literally when I met him 2 months later, that's when we launched Fat Miilk.
You said 2 months later?
Yeah.
2 months later. Holy crap.
2 months later, we launched Fat Miilk after we teamed up. So like he was already progressing in his way. Like he had the coffee beans and, it was his family. And for me, I had the roaster, I had the foundation, like I had the name, I had, and he's like a branding genius, right? Like he's he's like an artist. And so I think the progress that we've already made and our passion for wanting to launch this thing was just so it was just like a puzzle piece. And so we teamed up, we're putting in hours on Fat Miilk, and then launched online 2 months later.
That's crazy. And how did that launch go for you guys as well?
It was amazing. We had we just have the best support system, and it just went crazy. Like our launch, people friends and family just supporting us. And I think, it went well. And we were growing our wholesale program like a few weeks later, and then we're looking at our first brick and mortar, like a few weeks after that, and it's just moving so fast. So, yeah,
that's crazy. And like I'm kind of curious, so you mentioned that was a pivotal moment. You found the right person, the right people came into your life, right? And as you teamed up with the right person, launched within months. But how did you know that person, what's his name, Tuan? Is it Tuan? Yeah. For Tuan, like how did you know that Tuan was the right person for Fat Miilk and vice versa?
I don't even know. That's a really good question. I didn't even doubt it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was just when you meet someone, and I think it was just easy. I think we just knew we were a good match to make this alive, because it was easy. Like I didn't have to convince him anything. I told him my vision, didn't have to really go into detail because that was his vision. And it was just so easy and it made sense. And it
Yeah.
wasn't, it took, minimal effort on my end to really not necessarily sell him on it, but it was just like, it was like a shared experience. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
It's kind of like when you meet two people with the same vision, you just get it,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
that makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah.
And so I guess like in terms of the branding of Fat Milk, one of the things I was taking a look at your website and all that, and it's just like, and reading all these articles about Fat Milk, I thought it was really cool just seeing the branding as well. So who was responsible of doing all that branding, like beyond the, like I love the logo, like the water buffalo with the fin and whatnot, and you have this tagline of Beyond the Drip. Is that still active at the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like I love to kind of hear, what was that creative process like in creating the brand of Fat Milk as well for yourself?
Yeah, I think the thing with Tuan and I think what's really important for us to grow Fat Milk is the storytelling, right? So in every decision that we make, it's how do we tell a story? Everything is so intentional. Nothing is like that line or that color or, that aspect of our brand. Nothing exists just to exist. There's always a reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
So in terms of branding, I would probably say it was a joint effort.
Yeah.
In terms of us collaborating on the brand itself. In terms of design, that's Tuan. Like,
Yeah.
I love to talk about it. I love to just, brainstorm with him and tell him this and blah, 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 and, feed off of each other. But essentially, he brings it to life, right? With Beyond the Drip, whenever we decided, we need a tagline, how are we, what's a good one? We were kind of going back and forth on that.
Yeah.
And, for me, it was important to be able to expound on our coffee. And so when I came up with Beyond the Drip, I was like, okay, this is how we talk about that. We're not just a coffee company. We're huge on ethical, ethical practices with our farmers, and we're big on community and all of these things, so that's kind of how Beyond the Drip came to play. In terms of the logo, that was Tuan. If you look at it, it has so many components in there that I don't think people really realize. Like, the head is the fin, and then you have the coffee beans on the face, and then you have the coffee leaves on the ears and all that stuff. And we thought that was a storytelling point as well, because the water buffalo is ultimately a farmer's best friend, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I love it. There's so many, like, honestly, as someone who studies marketing and branding, I appreciated so many of these small details. And you pointed out details that I was like, shit, I didn't even notice that. It's so funny.
A lot of people don't notice these things, and I think that's fine. I think that for us, it's a way to tell the story, and they're like, oh, whoa, I didn't realize, So
it's also a really great way to dive deeper into the brand and build curiosity of the brand too. So yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And so as you're growing Fat Miilk at the moment, right, were there any skills that you had to kind of learn beyond pharmacy or anything like that? Kind of curious about that.
Skills that I had to learn. So many.
Yeah.
You know what? Someone actually asked me that yesterday, what's the biggest thing that surprised me, or whatever. But I will say, starting this company, it was kind of everything that I expected. I knew it was going to be a lot of work. I knew it was going to be a lot of unknowns, and we had to figure it out. But in terms of what I really had, any skills that I specifically had to learn, I don't know, just always thinking about what I should be doing is something, managing my time, right? Where should I be spending my time and energy to make sure that things convert, right? When you're a small business, you're a 2-person show, you know what I mean? There's so many areas that will pull your time and your attention. And I think one skill set that I'm still working on is learning how much time I should put in PR, or how much time I should put in, you know, I don't know, sales or wholesale or retail space, or whatever the case is. Like, what's going to be the biggest conversion for us at this point? You know, when you have a big team, you can allocate, you go there, you focus on this, but we don't have the budget or the manpower at this point. So just having to figure that out.
Yeah, it's kind of like you only have X amount of hours in the day, and you're just really trying to figure out the best use of your time and stuff. Because I mean, it's business at the end of the day. Like, this is what I kind of figured for myself.
Right.
Like, dude, it's always never ending as well. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Kind of curious too, like, everything sounds like Fat Miilk is doing really well now. What kind of projects are you guys working on in terms of Fat Miilk at the moment?
So recently, man, we were working on so many, but well, to answer your question directly, we are going to open up a retail space next year. We're aiming for March or April. It's going to be in the Chicago West Loop area, and we're super excited about that. So that's one thing. We are going to launch 3 more roasts next year. So right now we have our blue roast, which has a story with that too. And it's like a medium dark profile. But next year we're going to launch our yellow roast, which is a medium flavor type of profile. And then our darkest roast, which is the red one. But it's also Year of the Ox, which is, you know, you can say it's Year of the Water Buffalo. So we have a year, it's going to be our year. And we have a year to, you know, do something. So we're going to do something with, you know, Lunar New Year, Year of the Ox, potentially with our roaster. So,
dude, that's freaking awesome, man. I can see the excitement in your eyes. I guess, like, everything going on, like, how are you feeling? Because, like, think about it. A year or two ago, you're still in the pharmacy. Now you're launching your dream business of, like, really not only growing Vietnamese coffee, but also spreading Vietnamese culture around too as well. Like, how are you feeling these days?
Oh, I am feeling, you know what? It hasn't hit me yet.
Yeah? No?
To be completely honest with you. I recently moved, so sorry for all of this, and I couldn't find the best place to set up, so I'm sure you see the reflection, but
good.
I recently moved, and the first time that it actually hit me, that I'm doing, like, I have my own business and I'm doing this, was when I was moving, and I had all these old coffee grounds from, like, you know, Cafe du Monde, and, like, for people who know what that is, it's like other major brands in the Vietnamese coffee realm, right? And my fiance, he was just like, throw that shit away, you know, like, you know, like, you have your own coffee company. And I was just like, damn, I do have my own coffee company. Like, this is crazy, you know? So, I think that's when it really hit me. But I mean, to answer your question, I really don't, I don't know. I'm feeling good. I feel like I'm doing something that I'm excited about. And something that I want to continue to, like, grow and think about and spend my hours kind of, you know, I don't know, it's just so much more fun, and I'm in a good place.
Dude, your fiance is hella funny. Throw that shit away, like, straight up.
He's like, throw that shit away, and I was like, okay, you know. But I hoard coffee. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, just because you have your own coffee company doesn't mean other people's coffee. It's all different.
No, for sure. No, it's totally different. And, you know, people always ask me, like, one, they think I'm a huge coffee snob now, which I'm definitely not. And two, people, like, think I don't drink other coffee. I'm like, I mess with Dunkin' Donuts, okay? I like me a Dunkin' Donuts, and, like, I still mess with, like, the major brands. I still love going to, like, small, you know, community mom and pop type of coffee shops. Like, I love that. And I really am not even my partner and I, we always admit we're not like coffee experts. Like Vietnamese coffee is humble, you know what I mean? And like, we're like learning all this as we go, but I mean, we're learning so much, and we definitely do not affiliate or like even put ourselves in that realm of like coffee expert,
like super coffee connoisseur. Like
no, I'm just like I just like what I like, so
yeah. And I think like sometimes with coffee, it's easy, it's kind of like how people talk about wine and shit. Sometimes you get those like snobs and whatnot, but I mean, it's so important just to enjoy the experience. But I'm kind of curious about one thing, as you're starting this company, I know you have your fiance, he sounds super supportive, but how did the people around you, like your family, especially your parents and all that, how did they react to you starting this company out?
Well, everyone, like my sisters, let's start there. My sisters and cousins, all that, super supportive. Obviously they know I've been wanting to do it forever, so they were probably like, about time, like just do it.
Yeah.
But I think my parents are still on the fence. So
on the fence? How do you know that they're on the fence? What kind of things do they say to you?
It's not what, I mean, it's more so like they always want me to know that I went to school for a pharmacy degree, and I spent all that time and money, and I have a certain skill set that a lot of people would only dream of, right? Which I'm so blessed for. But I think it's a hard conversation to really have, and I feel like it'll it definitely takes more than one conversation, but to like do something that you love is that's kind of like a different. So I mean, we'll get there. We'll get there.
It's a work in progress, right?
Yes, work in progress.
Yeah. And as you're growing this business too, it sounds like you guys are coming out with new products and whatnot. Things are going really well. You seem very fulfilled. I can see it in your eyes. You're super happy too. I'm kind of curious, like, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've kind of experienced growing this business, and what are some of the lessons that you've learned so far?
Some of the biggest challenges. One of the biggest challenges is to be ready for anything, right? Which I feel just to be versatile, right? So recently, Bon Appetit wrote an article about Fat Miilk on their highly recommend list, and they have a following of like 4 million people on their Instagram and 3 million on their Facebook. And instantly, once that went out, we probably saw like a 5,000% increase in our visibility on our website, engagement wise, and sales just skyrocketed, right? So praise the Lord on that. But I think just being ready for that. To be honest, we managed, right? Because we were determined. So, for the last, I'm like running on like 3 hours of sleep. But for the last few days, it's been, 15-hour days with the team, and just fulfilling orders, answering questions. Now that we're out there, people have a lot of questions about our product, our fins, our coffee. So just being as engaged and timely with our communication. So just really stepping up to the plate, I think, is the biggest challenge that I would say as a new business owner, is that you never know what is going to come, either good or bad. And you just have to be able to have the right attitude and adapt. And I think that's exactly what we did in this situation. And the whole time, my anxiety was, at an all-time high, but I was ecstatic at the same time, and we just had to source so many things that we were low on. Like, who knew we needed to get like, you know, we were good, with shipping boxes, but now we had to hurry up and get a million more and like just try to like get all of these things. But it prepared us for scale, right? So now, you know, these are the challenges that we'll face that will essentially push, you know, our efforts forward to be a scalable business.
That's so crazy. You got featured on Bon Appetit. That's crazy. How did that happen, by the way?
So one of the editors requested a sample, and we sent it to him, and he loved it, and wanted to do a feature on us. So I kind of knew it was going to happen. They interviewed us. It wasn't like I didn't know, but I just didn't know when it was going to come out. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I honestly had no idea what the response was going to be or the conversion on that. And it was insane. So,
That's crazy. Wow.
It's been crazy. So yeah, I appreciate you being flexible with me and just kind of, I'm happy to be here, but it's been a little bit of a crazy challenge.
Well, it's kind of cool for me on the other side because like I did some research on Fat Miilk and stuff, but like hearing it straight from you and all these like things that are happening, it just gives me a really cool appreciation that you're doing so much. And I think it's like you should be hella proud of yourself, like looking back on all this as well. Like think about it. You were in the pharmacy a year ago, and now you're featured on Bon Appetit. And
I know. I love it. It's hitting me. Yeah, no. I was in pharmacy like 6 months ago. Like it's insane. Like, and now it's like, yeah. I will say one thing that, you know, my partner and I always talk about is it's insane. Like, I mean, it's only been 2.5 months, you know what I mean? And we essentially, so we sold out of our gift boxes and our our blue fins. And so, Bon Appetit put us on the map. We had orders from Budapest. We had orders from a bunch of orders from Canada. I mean, it's insane. Australia is showing us mad love right now. The UK, and you know, our site shows us like where people like are when they look at our site. I mean, people from Japan, Africa. It's so weird. I'm like, really? Like, that's crazy. Is insane. India, New Zealand. I'm just like, okay, cool. But it's always so intriguing. Like, Bon Appetit, amazing. Thank you.
But it's so cool. Like, I mean, I think a lot of credit goes to you and your partner as well and your team, because it's one thing to get featured on and get featured and not be able to handle it, but you guys put yourself in that position where you're able to roll with the punches and stuff. So that's really great. Anyways, like this is gonna be like one of my final questions for you, but in terms of like, you know, the younger Lon or someone who is maybe in pharmacy school, maybe she's a young Asian pharmacy student that wants to start her own business. She felt like how you did. Is there any advice that you would have for that person, the younger Lon or Lan?
I would say, so much, so many things, but I would just say believe in yourself. You know what I mean? Like, believe that you could do these things without feeling like you have to go the traditional route or have to listen to your parents or have to do all that, you know, to be successful. I didn't go into pharmacy thinking that I wasn't going to be successful. I went into pharmacy knowing and expected to be successful. But I think if you have a dream or if you want to start your own business or, you know, whatever, go for it, you know. And I think having, you know, like just having these core values and these core expectations of myself embedded in myself, like back then, I wish I would have just like done what I needed to do to activate those skills and to really push myself and surround myself around strong women who told me that that was totally possible, you know? So I would say just go for it, believe in yourself, and honestly, you are going to do it eventually if it's truly, truly what you want to do. At some point, it's going to be such a hot feeling in your body that you just have to do it. So just do it when you're young, like take a risk and just do it and see what happens, you know?
I love
that's
it.
what I would say.
Solid advice. Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Cool. So obviously we got to do the shameless plug on this channel. You know, there's a lot of people that probably want to support your brand. They want to support Vietnamese coffee, the vision. So where can one get Fat Miilk?
Yeah, so right now the best place to get Fat Miilk is on our website, www.fatmiilk.com with 2 I's. Do not forget the double I in milk.
Dude, I was looking it up earlier. I was like, I don't think this is their site.
Yeah, no, I know. Everyone's like, I can't, there's something wrong with your site. I'm like, try this one. And it's like the double I. But yeah, so that's probably the best place. If you're in the Wichita, St. Louis, or Chicago area, definitely we have retailers in those 3, you know, cities as well. But yeah, online is international, it's domestic. That's where you can find us.
That's so funny. I gotta ask, what's with the 2 I's? Is there a meaning behind that as well?
Yeah, so the 2 I is a really big play on the South Vietnam flag.
Okay.
My family, Tuan's family, we're from South Vietnam, and if you look at the southern flag, it's the coat of armor with 3 stripes representing the north region, the central region, and the southern region. And so the double I is really a play on that with the 2 spaces in between the 3 lines. So that's what the double I.
I had to ask you because you said everything is intentional. I was like, I'm pretty sure the double I's is intentional. I will tell you, man, you probably should buy that domain. It was like $3,000 with the 1 I, just so.
I know, right?
Right.
We should buy it.
Yeah.
That might be on our to-do list.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So yes, support Fat Miilk, and I'll leave all the information below as well. Is there any final words that you want to leave with the audience before we head off, or is that pretty much it?
Let me see. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on here. This was such a fun conversation. I consider you a friend, a colleague, and I love what you're doing as well. And love to support it and love to support people like you and I in this space. But yeah, I think one final message is check us out on fatmiilk.com with 2 I's.
Ending with the plug. I love it.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you for making the time to do this, and can't wait to check out Fat Miilk.